already. We're getting fired.
Hey guys, hopefully it's people's out there watching. I'm going to do my weekly rant today. Then I'm going to move up here and watch for any kind of comments because these lights on my bald head are not working out well for anybody. But anyway, so what I want to rant about today to you guys is there was a bad accident this last week or so, and I was getting phone calls from some of the people that was on that call, and they said they needed to talk, and I was like, okay, where is your officers that was on this accident? And nobody checked out and checked on to make sure they were okay. This was, it was pretty bad. A lot of people knew this person and so on and so forth. And as leaders, as chiefs, as lieutenants, as whatever fellow paramedics, we have to start checking on each other to help with the mental health. Not only because we don't want people capping themselves, but we want people to stay in the industry, and we need to talk. Back in the day, you and I have talked about it before. After something, nobody in public knew that we had the conversation, but we all went back and had the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And we really have to get better at that. Right, wrong, or indifferent. We have to get better at that. But that leads us into Brian brought us our first ever guest. It's Eric Kocheran with Kocheran Strong. And he had a tragedy, a line of duty tragedy, and he's using it for good. So this is Eric. We're going to let him tell his story. And then Brian and I will try to ask some questions, but we've all figured out in the last 30 minutes that we can talk for days. And it's all good conversation. So, but anyway, this is Eric. So I'm going to move up here and watch for comments. Hopefully some people jump on. But if not, they can watch it later. So,
Yep.
All right, this is Eric.
So I had a on-duty incident as a deputy sheriff in Ross County in November of 2022. It's very popular. A lot of people have seen the videos, and a lot of people spoke to me about it. So I was shot, and I had to take a life. Unfortunately, it was suicide by cop. He was a vet. He had a lot of mental health issues, and not some guy we were hunting or anything like that. So there's this aspect to it that is different than what we were trained. The suicide by cop is known, but the other person involved, that part was never really taught to us. And it was said to me once, well, we don't want you to be scared. Well, the problem is you have no game plan because you've not taught me how to handle the moral, religious, mental health side of it, and how to deal with the fact that now I've gone from working 100 miles an hour to being medically retired, and now you expect me to be a model citizen, and that's not going to happen because there was no forethought to mental health, solving it before something happened. And I say it to these young recruits all the time: take care of your childhood trauma now, because when you get in this job, we're really going to give it to you, and it's going to be fast, and you're going to burn out fast if you don't have this other stuff taken care of. And along my journey, I learned that my childhood trauma led to some reaction because I was reliving that trauma every time I went to this situation. And it doesn't have to be something big. It can be something small or a number of small things piled together. And then it was like, oh, that's why I'm acting the way that I'm acting, because I'm reliving this thing from 20 years ago that I had to keep reliving all the time. Sorry about that. All the time.
What was that?
Well, I pulled the cord because it was too short. It was choking me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, anyways, through the journey, I've realized that there are so many ways that you can become traumatized, and that it can affect you. So there's no one solution to any problem, obviously, but giving a quality of life to people is what we've discussed for many years, even before my incident, and we've tried to do it. And now I have the time to do it, and I have the energy to do it because, I told Brian earlier, I said, I can lay on the couch and nobody would say anything to me, not a word. They could say, you took a bullet. You almost lost your life. Relax. But I can't do that. I'm not that kind of person. I'm high drive, and I got to always have something to do. But my passion with this has become such a uh, industrial revolution, so to speak, because people are looking at me going, "What? Like, well, I didn't think about that." Right. And neither did I until I experienced it. When I left the hospital said, well, it'll be about 8 months before you get your mental health help. And I looked at the lady and I said, I'm going to put a bullet in my head before then, long before then. You understand that, right? Like I have poor mental health before I got shot because of all the stupid stuff that's happened in my personal life, all the stuff that I've seen over 20 years of being in law enforcement, of the last 4 or 5 years being in fire. Like, you understand that by the time you find me somebody and you make my appointment, they're going to already have me in the ground. And the lady just looked at me and said, well, I don't know what else to do for you. And that is unacceptable for any person. It's ultra unacceptable for our first responders because we are asking them, not just the policemen, because you have fire departments that have been shot at. You have EMTs that are now getting guns and knives pulled on them in squads. They're wearing bulletproof vests and stab-proof vests now in squads, if you don't know that. With the inundation of all this new technology, there has become a disconnect. It's great as a tool, but it's become a way of life and not a tool. And that is the problem because, as he had said earlier, we used to go to the firehouse, sit down, have dinner, and talk about what happened. Now we don't do that. So what do? We bury it. And then we layer it and layer it and layer it. And then we go home and we layer it, layer it, layer it. We're asking you to go to a car wreck and be the perfect husband when you go home. You just saw somebody die. But go home and be happy and jolly and be the perfect husband. That doesn't cut it. So what the Kocheran Strong Foundation's goal is to get mental health treatment, actual treatment, and peer counseling, and ways to cope with what we're dealing with so there's a quality of life. Because when we leave this job, we're gaining back time that we lost, but we're watching our retirees die at such an early age and so quickly after they leave the service because they don't have anything to do. You just ask an alpha to be a beta, and they're programmed as an alpha. So now you look at them and you go, well, we'll deal with it later. Well, guess what? They don't have later. So one of our big things right now is we provide mental health service. We have actual counselors that bill us for copays. They bill us for uh, people who don't have insurance or their insurance isn't adequate or isn't taken by the counselors. There's 11 clinicians right now that are just waiting for calls. They have telehealth. You don't have to go to the office. You don't have to be seen going in and out. You could sit there in a t-shirt and underwear for all I care. But what I want you to do is I want you to understand this. I give you thousands of dollars worth of equipment. I send you across the country and I put you in front of a stranger and you do exactly what they tell you to do because they're a professional, right?
Right.
I'm your professional. I'm telling you, I have the equipment. You're going to do what I tell you to do, and I need you to go get your mental health fixed. You don't have to be suicidal. You don't have to be bad. More in it because it's like water in a cup. If you don't drink some and you keep pouring it, it's going to pour over. And you think we act out at home because we can't be fired, right? We don't act out at work because we can be fired. We don't act out. We act out at home and we say, "Oh, she's not going to leave me." Guess what? She's going to fire you. And she's going to leave you. She's going to take half your pension. So not only are you fired,
You said
you're
that like you lived that.
I'm divorced 3 times, so trust me, I know, I get it. But in all seriousness, we go home and we treat our families like we treat our suspects and these patients that we're dealing with over here. We treat them like that, and then they regret that years down the road because they say, "Man, when I was growing up, you were hard ass." Excuse my language, but that's what they said. My kid said it to me, and I took that like a ton of bricks. Like, man, my kids really saw me like that, and I want my kids when I die to think I'm an amazing person. Like, my dad was great, not a hero. No, I want them to say warrior. I want to say my dad was always fighting something, always fighting for somebody. Because the moment that we stop, and we had this conversation right before we came on the air, the moment that the older group is gone and the old guard is gone and the new guard takes over, it will not be the same. We've talked multiple times, and you guys have talked about in this program. EMS is a thing that is slowly just bleeding out. Nobody wants to be a cop now. Nobody wants to be an EMT. Everybody loves firemen because why? They save everything, and that's the running joke between cops and firemen. But having worked both sides of that fence, I understand that the stressors of the job are the same. Even if they're not the exact same situations, they're still the stressors of the job. And when we go home, if we don't have a quality of life, if we don't know how to handle things, we're going to have a problem. Now, we do spouses of law enforcement and fire and EMS. We're doing nurses. We're doing ER nurses. We're doing nurses that work during the COVID era because that is actually becoming a diagnosis in the psychological and all that. So we recently have added our tow truck drivers because they come to the scene and sometimes we're like, I need you to tow that car. It's got blood all in it. You're gonna have, they're seeing these injuries that we're seeing. They're seeing these scenes that we're seeing. And a lot of them have their own trauma in the past too. And we have to start considering them as first responders because we're asking them to come to an active scene and not know what they're rolling into, just like we are.
Huh?
We don't call them and say, hey, I got a guy that's, he's missing an arm. His arm's still in the car. We couldn't grab it because we can't get it out. It's pinned in. He's at the hospital. And the guy shows up and here's this arm hanging out of the car. We don't do that. We say, hey, I need a record. And they said, we need you to go here. And they roll up and they're like, holy crap, like that's somebody dude's arm. Like, and I know that's an exaggeration. Don't get me wrong, but they do see what we see. So we can't help everybody, but in the Kocheran Strong Foundation, we have started broadening our horizons. We're doing vets now. We're doing people who work at the prisons in Ross County. And in the sure future, I want to do retirees, but the retiree is going to be a little different. Now, we're going to try and find something for them to do. I would love to go take some peer counseling things and be able to teach them how to be peer counselors so we can take that old guard and bring them back into the fold so that these kids, when they have these traumas and they have all this craziness and they don't know how to handle it, we can look at them and go, okay, we used to rub dirt on it, right? And we go back to work. They still have to do that to a point, but we can also look at them and go, dude, this is what happened to me and this is how I handled it. That's not how you handle it. Like,
Right.
hey, we go home, first thing I do is crack open a drink, a cold beverage, and I'm going to just have 100 of these and I won't feel it in the morning. And we have to say, don't do that. Like one of the first things that was said to me after an accident one time was, it was pretty traumatic. My lieutenant says, when you go home, don't drink. And I looked at him like, what? And he goes, don't drink. And I didn't. I listened to him. And you know what happened? I woke up the next morning and I felt like, okay, I can handle this. Where if I'd have drank all night, and I was an alcoholic a couple times. There was a couple times I was an alcoholic. I'm not afraid to admit it. But I would wake up and I'd feel worse in the morning because now I couldn't get the thoughts out of my head and I wasn't clear headed. So there's things we can teach the new guard not to do as much as we can teach them what to do. And that's kind of our goal with the retirees is we're going to give the alphas an alpha job. And I think in the long run, that is going to be the way we bring EMS, fire, police back together. We have that disconnect between all those groups where we didn't before. I told these guys earlier, when we get done to seeing deputies go where the firemen are going because they know there's food. There's a clean bathroom and food.
Right.
I'm going with them. You can catch me in a little bit. I'll be back, But in all reality, we understood that if I go sit and talk with these guys for 10 minutes, I'm going to feel a lot better. I'm going to get my cruiser and be okay to finish my job. And the new kids, they just go back and they do this and they doom scroll or they turn the TV on and they watch a movie and they don't talk to each other at all. I've been at firehouses where I've sat there for 10 minutes and not heard a sound. And you want to talk about deafening silence.
Oh yeah.
I used to walk in firehouses and there'd be wrestling matches going on. Like what did I just walk into? But it was a way to burn off steam and not burn out.
Yeah.
And there's none of that these days. So you new guys that are coming on and some of you that have a little less experience than we do, you have to understand, we're not telling you these stories to be cool. We're telling you these stories because there's life lessons in them. This is what happened in a cool story. Don't get me wrong, and we love to tell cool stories, but there's also a lesson in there. Don't do that. Or I did that it was totally accidental, but it was perfect. And now I want you to do it because it's cool. But there's this disconnect in it, and we had that discussion earlier. What do we do to bring it back? And I think bringing the old guard back into the fold and giving them an actual job, is the way to do it. Now they're not going to be able to fight fires, and they're not going to be able to be on the payroll and all that because of retirement. I get that, but they can go to the firehouse and sit and talk, or we can bring them in and into the firehouse and have them give a little half hour, this is what you don't do, or this is how you handle this situation. Because if you have a guy that's expert about NASCAR, you're not going to send him down to the Kentucky Derby and have him tell you how to do a horse, right? So why would we take somebody who doesn't know anything about fire and EMS and have them give you a speech about mental health? That's ridiculous. I come in, I tell you like it is. Hey, guess what? You're messed up. I can see it in your face in the crowd. You've said nothing, and I can see it because the words that I'm telling you are affecting you, and I see it in your body language. I see it in your face. And that has happened. And I've had to pull people out afterwards and go, what do you need? And we said this also. What do you need, and how can I help you? Because are you okay? And when you answer yes, I'm going to call out. No, you're not. That's why I'm asking you. If I'm asking you, you're not okay. It's like somebody who's drunk in a bar and should you really be driving? That's a rhetorical question, guy. Like, come on.
Yeah, I'm fine.
You shouldn't be because I'm asking you. And it's the same thing with that. We got to bring back, are you okay? We got to bring back, what do you need? We got to bring back the mentality where you're my brother, even if I don't know your name. You're my sister, even if I've never seen you before. And if I walk up and I see something's bothering you, I want to be able to look at you and go, hey, listen, you're not okay. You can tell me you're okay, and I'm going to call you. But I want you to take this card, and I want you to hold on to it. And if you need anything, one side is me, call me. The other side is my clinician, call them. Totally confidential, not related to any department. If I need to verify you're a first responder, I will call the squad house and say, hey, is Johnny there? Nope. He's on schedule tomorrow. Yep. Okay. I owe him some money. I'll bring it by tomorrow. Okay, cool. If you're on the schedule, I don't need to call your chief. I don't need to call your captain and go, hey, is this Johnny guy? Is he on the squad? No, I don't need to do that. Or I'll go to the firehouse myself and walk in and look for a schedule. And if there's, people look at me all the time and they're like, can I help you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm with Kocheran Strong Foundation. I do mental health first responders. You can't imagine how much access they'll give me to a firehouse. I could be totally lying. But they trust what I'm saying because I carry myself the way they carry themselves, and they see, oh, this is a guy who's chewed some dirt. So that's the big thing that I'm trying to do is get everybody that quality of life, not just for home life, so that you can perform at work, and to bring that brotherhood back, that sisterhood back in, because there's a disconnect between, I had a nurse say, you guys used to come in, man, we joke and smoke and all this stuff. And now you guys come in, you stand there because we got a body camera on and we can only say certain things. But there's still a place where we can turn that off because, HIPAA, it's a real thing. I know cops don't believe that, but It is a real thing. But there's a place we can turn it off or lay it down or something and walk over and say hi. But they're not doing that. They're just standing in place and watching. And yes, you do have to guard your prisoner, but you can walk away 2 or 3 feet and say hi to the nurses and let them know that if anything happens, you're there. Or if anything happens, get out of my way because I'm a bulldog. Just don't be in my way because you're going to get hurt. Like, there's none of that anymore. The ERs are quiet. When you go in the ERs, they're so quiet now. It's almost like a morgue. Back in the day, there'd be cops over here fighting that guy, and that guy's over there high, and that girl's over there having a mental health issue. And it was the best place to be sometimes because the cafeteria's down here, the restroom's back here, and that guy over there wants to fight, and I like to fight. So, but now it's like a morgue. It's like, oh my God, where is everybody? And they're all in the rooms. And it's just become such a different world than what we experienced before.
So. And it's mandated. The hospital's like, you're not allowed to do this. You have to do this. Your quote is here. Do this only. And with a lot of things is the worried about getting in trouble for it. I got to do this because I don't want to get just like the camera. It isn't the worry that you have a camera. It's worried that you'll get in trouble, what they'll see on the camera.
Yeah. And a lot of the time, and I experienced this in law enforcement, the write-ups that I got weren't because of somebody complaining. It's because the officers, the supervision was watching the body cameras, and they're watching the whole body camera. Well, if your job is to watch the camera and assign a report number to it, why are you watching the whole thing? Because you're looking to get me in trouble for something.
Mhm.
And you told me when you introduced body cameras, and we got them back in 2013. We got them a long time ago. The first thing they said to us is, "This is not to get you in trouble." But the first thing you did was you wrote me up because of it.
Right.
So there's a supervision line where when you reach a certain rank, I think they give you this secret handbook, and this is how to be a jerk book, and because guys that used to work the road no longer have that road mentality. You know, we talked before about working supervisors. When my lieutenant would show up, I would get out of his way because this was the hardest working guy, and he just wanted. He's like, "Listen, what do you need?" That was his first thing he'd always say. "What do you need? Can you go mark that crash for me?" Absolutely. Go over, give me the measurements, hand me the piece of paper. What else do you need? Working supervisors are amazing. We don't have that. When's the last time? And it may happen, but don't get me wrong. But when's the last time you watched a captain go over and do a truck check? Does he even know there's a new form?
When do you watch the new guys go to a truck
Well,
check?
that also, but you set the example too.
Right.
I had a crew when my incident happened. I had a crew that worked under me. I was a sergeant. I had the best crew because they were empowered to make decisions. Because when it was time to make decisions, sometimes I didn't make that decision. I looked at them and said, "Well, what do you want to do?"
Mhm.
"Well, what do you want me to do, Sarge?" "No, that's not what I asked you. I asked you, what do you want to do? Because if you're right, we're going to do, if you're right and you have an 80% plan, I'm going to give you 20% to supplement it. But if you come to me with a 20% plan, well, then we're going to do what I want to do."
Right.
But they were trained by me and other people to empower themselves to make decisions and to make good decisions. Never had to worry about what they were doing, and I never had to worry about if they arrested the right guy or the wrong guy for the right or wrong reason, because they did their jobs every day. There was conversations multiple times throughout the day, either a phone call or in person, where I would say, "How many reports do you have?" "Okay, you have 6 and we have none. You go do your reports. We're going to take your calls for a while. Just keep your radio on in case we need you." Like, that gives them the sense that this dude's going to watch my back. He's not going to make me be here for another 6 hours doing reports. So there is a line, I think, and I don't know where it is, but I think they give you this book and they say, "Okay, now you're the boss. You're part of the problem, not the solution. And here you go. This is how you do that." And that's wrong. My sheriff never hesitated to come on a traffic stop. He made traffic stops. You'd be like, "Oh man, the sheriff's out. He's on a traffic stop." Like, "Oh great, now we got to behave." But he never feared doing that because he remembered that he was a road deputy at one time, and he remembered that every person mattered, and all hands on deck meant all hands. And that was a big driving force in me staying as long as I did in Ross County, because I'm from Columbus. I never wanted to live in the country until I moved to Chillicothe, and then I was like, "Oh, this is nice." Like, but it was the atmosphere too. I worked for a department that cared. I worked for a department that took care of us. They got us body cameras. They got us new guns all the time. We had new cars all the time. Like, yeah, it's money. I get it. But we never asked for a lot because it was given to us, where there's other departments who they just struggle. And now this needs to be something they give to you as mental health. We need to take care of that when you do your orientation.
Yeah, Jay just said, Jay's a firefighter. He was one of my
Okay.
mentors for years. And he said, it's called empowering your people by leading by example.
Exactly. Like I said a second ago, if you come to me and you got an 80% plan, I'll give you 30%, 20, 30%. We're going to have a 110% plan. But if you come to me at the 20% plan, I'm going to send you back, say, "Hey, rethink it." And Jay's right. If you show that you're a leader and yet you trust them, and I don't get me fired. That's the first thing I was told him. Don't get me fired. Try your papers, because I don't want the sheriff to yell at me. But if you need to take care of something, tell me. You can go follow up on that case, and I'll listen for your calls. And when I jump their calls, they would go, "Man, He's not just blowing smoke. He's going to do it.
Right.
You know, and I'd have just as many reports as my guys, and I would do a rotation with my guys for the districts because you had good districts and bad districts. And back in the day, everybody did the bad district, and that was not how I wanted it work. You had a rotation system, and when we worked 5 days a week, your Friday, you basically did follow-ups. Or if you knew what district you were going to be in during the week, you could plan a follow-up. Okay, I'm going to be in District 3 this week on Tuesday, so I'm going to call this guy and say, hey, do you have that witness statement ready? Because I'm going to be over in your area Tuesday. You know, you can't imagine how much work got done. And it wasn't me yelling. It wasn't me carrying on. It was me showing them how to do it. And I would always say, I'm training you to replace me because I want to move up. I want to make more money. I want to sit behind a desk and get out of this car. But I also want you to be ready to move up. I had 5 deputies under me. 3 are now sergeants. 1 left the department, and 1 was a sergeant for a little while 1 was gone, and is probably the next person that's going to promote. And everybody wanted to bid on my shift because they knew the culture there was, we are not the standard. We're the example.
And that's part of it, is the culture. That you have a way of finding the person in the firehouse, in the EMS, in the sheriff's office that is, hey, what do you want to do? You're the boss, you tell me.
Yeah.
That's not what I said. I said, what is your thoughts? I can't help cultivate you into becoming somebody with great ideas if you want me to make every decision for you just because I have the title.
Yes.
What do you want to do?
Yes.
What's your thoughts on this?
But, you know, I've made this comment before. I want to be the kind of leader that people follow and don't have a title.
Right.
That, you know,
You can lead from the bottom.
So that's what, for me, what you're saying here pretty much in a nutshell, I mean, when we really sit down and look at it, is the leaders are getting lazy. They don't know how to lead.
They don't
We're
know how.
not teaching the leaders.
Well, because our
lead.
leaders were, not all of them, but a good number of our leaders were, well, you don't need to know that. And because they didn't want to be replaced.
Right.
And they weren't thinking the replacement in the right way. Like,
Right.
Yeah, you do. You want to be replaced because you want to go make more money and move up the ranks.
I got a couple people on here that work for me, and I tell them every day, and they can contest to it. I'm looking for my leader. When I stop, I want somebody to carry on what I do.
Yep.
And treat people the way I do. And I know it's a stigma. And right now, I was just reading the other day about a law enforcement officer that signed himself into a psych unit, 72-hour hold, went through a rehab for PTSD, came out, was put back on work. His trustees or commissioners or whoever, they're hired up, fired him.
I read that.
And it's like, so why would I want to say I need help?
Right.
Why would I want to be in a room with my captain and tell them this bothers me?
Yes.
Only to worry about how I'm going to lead my family. And the safe harbor law, for the first time in history, through the division of EMS, I don't know if you guys have seen it. I just read it the other day. It's protection for EMS, fire. In these situations, they can't be fired. They can't be done away with. Now they have to follow all of the processes that, you know, and attend all of their meetings and so on and so forth. But finally, you know, it's kind of like nursing and physician. If you have a drug problem, as long as you say, I have a drug problem, I'm going to a rehab, you don't lose your license.
Right.
For law enforcement, for EMS, for fire, the first thing they want to do is pull your license. So nobody says, I need help. So how do we fight that? How do we?
Well, one of the big things in law enforcement is your identity is your badge and your gun.
Right.
And the first thing they do is say, hand over your badge and your gun.
Oh, yeah.
And that is like stripping away your identity. Now,
it's the same way in EMS.
And it is.
But I think that's done on purpose, because that's punishment for you doing something wrong.
Well, it's punishment for doing something wrong, but it's also liability, which it's a good liability for them, because if you go home and you do something to yourself, they're going to be held liable.
Correct.
But I have 100 guns in home.
Right.
You know, I'm a gun collector. Like, you just brought liability for yourself. You didn't protect me. You didn't do something to actually protect me. You did something to protect yourself, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but it's the only thing that gets done.
Right. That's what I was getting ready to say, that the punishment isn't so much the fact that it's a punishment, but instead of a punishment, is it more like instead of stripping your stuff as you are who you are, let's get you help.
So that's another thing that's our departments have cards. The chiefs and the lieutenants and all them, they have a stack of our cards. They can walk up to you and say, Brian, I noticed lately that you've been coming in, you're hungover all the time, so you must have a drinking problem. We want you to go get checked out. Here's a card. Sit down and call them, because they're going to answer you within 2 hours. They're going to have a phone appointment with you within 24 hours. They're going to have a in-person or a Zoom appointment with you within 48 hours. And at the end of the 48 hours, the department can call and say, hey, did they call? Yes. Did they show up for their appointment? Yes. Guess what? They don't get any other information other than this next piece. And this is important. Are they fit for duty?
Yeah.
Now, if you say yes, then the department probably should put them back on the road and they're fine. They're not going to know if you come back, if you have more because the bill's going to come to me. I'm paying the bill for the department. Somebody said, oh, that's great. You're just doing that to get popularity. No, what I'm doing is I'm covering you, because if they get the bill, they're going to know you're going.
Yeah.
Right.
If I get the bill, nobody knows, because even I don't know who I'm paying for. I get a number. They assign a number to you. I see that you filled out a financial assistance form. I sign it off, send it back. I never see your name again. I have no idea who you are. So there's that built in for the department, because I explained it to one of the sheriffs one time. I said, if you get sued because one of your deputies goes home and does something by a family member or whatever, trust or whatever it may be, you're going to lose your patrol division and everything you have that is not a jail and not serving papers and not doing court, because the commissioners aren't going to pay for that. They're going to make you pay for it out of your budget. So I put it into your budget where you can say, whoa, 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 we have a mental health program, and it is incentive for them to promote it, because then they can say, we have a yearly meeting, we send people all the time, or we tell people. If they are using it and it is in place, even if it doesn't belong to them, it's still a mental health program, and it gives them some liability coverage. It gives the foundation an incentive to be promoted within the department, and it gives them the incentive to say it's okay to not be okay. Like, we understand it's kind of like when we would carry dolls in the car, or stuffed animals, and we'd give them to the little kids at domestic violence scenes.
Yeah.
You know how far that would go with a child?
Oh yeah.
Because they were in trauma, and you did something that was so out of character for this big scary guy in a uniform, and he's handing me a teddy bear, and this kid is having one of the worst days of their childhood, and they look at you like, oh my God, you're the greatest. This is the teddy bear for the department. Like, we know you're having issues, and instead of making you pay a price, we're going to send you for help, number one, and we're going to give you the time to do it, number two, because they can put you on light duty or put you on administrative leave and pay you while you're doing your little 48-hour thing, whatever the department wants to do. I don't care about that part. What I care about is it's promotable, it's usable, and it's not trackable. I have gone and sat down and broken all the stigmas: money, being seen, being tracked, worrying about can my spouse go? Absolutely. Take your spouse. If I could save your marriage, then go for it. Because I've failed 3 of them, and trust me, I know how expensive it can be. And I'm not trying to be funny. I'm being serious. Like, the highest divorce rates is in first responders, because we don't communicate. But if I could teach your wife how to deal with what you're doing, and I could save your family, and you could have a better quality of life. I have children of first responders that we are paying for, because when my 10-year-old came to me and said, I don't feel right. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, in my head. And I'm like, huh? And he goes, I fear every time you leave, you're going to not come back, because you almost lost me. And so when I would leave, he would text me the entire time I was gone. And he wanted me on Life 360, or he wanted to go with me because he was so afraid that when I walked out the door, I wasn't coming back in that door because I almost didn't the last time. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, holy crap, I forgot that they are here and that they deal with my crap. So including them into this was probably one of the best things I could do, because not only am I providing you with a better way to communicate, I'm also providing them with a better way to communicate. And that's good because that might be our next first responder. And if they see how it acts, how are they going to act? It's kind of like the abuser. The kid sees the abuser, mom gets beat up or dad gets beat up all the time, and the other person is just always rough and tumble. Well, guess what they're going to turn into? They're going to turn into that rough and tumble person, even if they don't want to. It's still going to happen because it's what they're trained. So we have to take that mentality and put that back into the EMS and fire, and law enforcement, that there's no SWAT team for mental health. It's us.
Right.
And the leadership talks about doing it, but they've talked about doing it for 50 years and it's never been done. And now we're doing it and it's amazing.
John just posted on here just a few minutes ago how, I'm not going to read the whole post, but he said he had a lieutenant that told him he'd be suspended or fired
Yeah.
if he
like,
reported anything. And that's the stigma
yeah.
of, and it's true.
Yes.
You know, I've had some social workers that I know, and they're like, well, you guys need to go see social workers. And I tell them that we're afraid to, because if
Yeah.
our bosses find out, or our chiefs,
Yeah.
they're going to put on the sideline.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, no, that don't happen. That don't happen. There's laws that protect that. It does happen
It does.
every day.
And it's not illegal if you don't report it.
Right.
It's kind of like that. Well, if I run this red light and nobody catches me, is it really illegal?
No cop, no stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so, and going to what he says, with the department having some vested interest in this, I'm hoping that changes that mentality. That where the department says, okay, listen, we got a guy that might go pop somebody, or might do something stupid. If we send him and something still happens, guess what we just did? We just gave liability to ourselves. So we don't want to threaten the guy, because then what happens? Then we're forcing you, and it becomes another HIPAA issue altogether. Which, yes, cops, HIPAA is a thing. Read it. And I know some cops who are very versed in it, and they know how to walk around it. Don't get me wrong. But I know some cops that as soon as you say HIPAA, they just freak out. But when you challenge someone to do better, but you provide them with no path to do it,
Or tools.
Or scare them.
Right? That's what I'm trying to break on the business side of it. I've wrote it for you. I'm paying it for you. It's under my umbrella, but you get the benefit from it. You're not paying the bill. You're not out anything except for maybe a day or two of labor, but you are covered basically as much as you can be without owning it. And when it comes down to it, you're making a healthier employer. If you have 150% turnover in your department, no matter what it is, how much equipment are you purchasing for this person? Uniforms and gear and all this stuff. How much money are you spending and blowing out the door on somebody that stayed 6 months because you pissed them off and said, well, if you don't go get your head checked out, we're going to fire you. So the guy says, well, I'm out, and quits. You just wasted thousands of dollars that you're going to have to do again and again and again and again. And then you cry about budget concerns. Really? Like, you could have bought a new cruiser with the 150% turnover you had.
Right.
So if we're taking care of our people, and we're actually taking care of our people, we're not just saying we take care of our people. If we are taking care of our people in all their areas, then they're going to stay. Money is going to become a thing where they're like, yeah, I'm going to make $2 more if I go to the other side of the building and work for the city. But on the other hand, they're not treating their people like I'm treated here. I started in Ross County in 2011. My intention was this was going to be a short full-time job for me to get a big paid job. And I never left because of the way I was treated. I was taken care of. My gun, if something needed on my gun, I took it in. I gave it to the lieutenant. He gave me a replacement. I put it in my holster. I went back to work. A couple of days later, he called me in the office. He gave my gun back. I gave it. Armors looked at it. It's fine. Okay, cool. Back to work. Flashlight breaks. Boss, my flashlight broke. He'd open the drawer, hand me a flashlight. I was back in service. Like, when you take care of your people and you truly show that you love them, they will go to the ends of the earth for you. But why aren't we treating each other on the same level like that? We used to do that. You know, we talked about earlier. If I was in a fight and I looked over my shoulder and it was a fireman, I'm screaming, "Get in here and help me kick this dude's butt and get cuffs on him." Like, don't stand there and watch. Because, and I never had to say that because they want to come in and help me out anyways because they don't want to see me fail. There was a vested interest.
And some of that was we just wanted to fight.
Well, yes, I was trying to be PC here.
I've been maced more than once.
Yes, and I've been accidentally tasered a couple times as an EMT bus driver. I was the bus driver. I was never an EMT. I was a firefighter, but I was never an EMT. But I loved driving the ambulance because when we'd show up for calls and there'd be all these young female paramedics, they'd say, "Oh my God, you brought your dad to work," and it's like, "Yeah, okay, thank you, lady." Like,
The run we went on.
oh my God, don't, yeah. Yeah. But, you know, there's, you know, like we're acting right now, the way we're joking and everything like that. That's the way firehouses used to be.
All the time. Constantly.
All the time. Like we were like, we're going to get sued. Like we'd always say, boy, we're going to sue because there was no cameras and no video.
And then when the camera was there,
yeah.
is that thing got audio recording?
Yes, that's
Because I'm
always the
still
first
employed.
question. Yeah. It's like, don't do any vulgar gestures. But back in the day, that's how we blew off steam and that's how we actually survived.
It's how you connected.
Yes,
with your
just as well, yeah.
And that's actually how you build up that ability to say when it happened, when it said, "Hey, I'm having trouble, I'm having problems." That's how you got the person that you felt that comfortable with saying that to.
Yes, that's a hard thing that I've learned doing some peer counseling is breaking into their world. So I go to the station and I just sit down at the table and start talking to them. I start telling them stories about me, and I'm Irish. I can talk to anybody. I don't care, and I can talk for hours. But I start just talking to them, and at some point, and it may not be that time, at some point they're going to say, "Okay, you're from the outside. You have no connection to the department. You've been through it. You've chewed the dirt, and you've chewed the worst of it. So can I ask you a question?" That's always the first thing it said to me that keys me that they're ready to talk. Can I ask you a question? Absolutely.
Yep.
And when they start talking, believe it or not, and people that know me are not going to believe this, but I shut up. And no, seriously, that was a hard lesson to learn. And I let them talk. And if you talk for an hour straight, I'm going to nod my head and I'm not going to say anything because I have just opened the floodgate, and trying to close it, number one, is going to be detrimental to their mental health.
Oh, yeah.
And number two, I got you to do what I told you to do. So why would I stop you? I'm like, talk to me. And then when you talk to me, I say, "Oh, hang on there." Like, come on.
Right.
And that's the other stigma that needs to be broken is we have to find a way to get these, and I say kids, but they're the
We're
new
old.
guard.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but they're the new guard, you know, and the new guard has to understand why the old guard survived as long as they did. Back in the day, if you got hired on, you didn't see first shift work for 15 years.
Oh yeah.
Now you can be on first shift when you get hired.
Yep.
Because the turnover and all this, guys never left. Guys and gals never left. And if they did, we were carrying them out on a stretcher. Like they were having a heart attack or something. Like, oh my God, like Larry's finally going to go, you know? He's been here 37 years and he's finally going to, like, come on. There's not that mentality anymore. And if you're a younger person and you're listening right now, I want you to watch how our body language is and our voices are on the camera, because this is how you build the brotherhood back up. You can wear the t-shirts, you can get the big tattoos, brotherhood and all this. Come on, man. Brotherhood is not a tattoo and a t-shirt. If you're wearing a fire t-shirt everywhere you go, you have a mental health problem. That is a trauma response if you don't understand. And I'll tell you why. You are looking for someone to say, "Oh my God, you're a fireman." What happens? Endorphin release. It's a trauma response.
Never thought about that.
When you are sitting at the table and you're a cop and you're looking around all the time and you're saying, "Oh, I'm just scanning the room." No, you're not. Because when you walked in that room, you knew every person that was sitting at every table. You knew where every gun was in that room, whether they said it or not, or they showed it or not. You know every person in that room, that if a bar fight broke out, that guy and I'm backing up to that guy because he could fight. I could tell it in his face, his body language. But you're scanning. What you're doing is you're looking for someone to say, "What are you looking for?" Because now, guess what you've become? You become the hero. You have an endorphin release. That is a trauma response. I have done research not just on the internet, but in actual books. They still make those, believe it or
Yeah,
not, believe it or not, on what triggers endorphin releases. And it's as small as somebody saying, great job. When the boss would come by and say, great job, what'd you do? Beaming. Oh
Oh,
man,
yeah.
he thinks I'm the cool shit. But what you were doing was you were having a good endorphin release. But when you got yelled at, you had the same release. It was just negative. It was a trauma response. Who wants to get in trouble? Nobody. Who wants to get rid of? Nobody. But when it happens, guess what? You're like, man, I screwed up, man.
Right.
And if you handled it wrong and you went out and you bitched to everybody about it, what were you doing? You were getting a trauma response endorphin release because now you're the center of attention.
Yep.
Right.
And people don't think about that. You know, pornography, shopping, different are trauma responses. And we, as older gentlemen, we don't take care of our prostate health as well as we did when we were in our 20s and 30s. We don't take care of our testosterone as well as we did when we were younger. I started recently taking supplements for that. And I tell you what, number one, I feel amazing. Like my energy levels through the roof. Number two, and not to be vulgar or anything, but there are additions that happen inside the bedroom. I'm going to be honest, because when your partner feels like they're wanted and you feel like you're wanted, that's an endorphin release on the positive side that you want to keep getting. So guess what you're doing? You're training your brain that this is what I'm supposed to be getting. And if you're not being as loving as they are to you, you're not going to get that response. But when you have a mutual coming together of affection, you just in a sexual way, like even
In
holding
firehouse.
hands.
I mean, just
Yeah.
like us talking earlier, it's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Just sitting around a bunch of guys that knows each other's has
Yeah.
their back, knows what the other ones lived through. It's a similar response.
Something I've done for years, and I never thought about it until somebody brought it to my attention. And I do it to Brian all the time. Is I would people that I knew on a personal level always tell them I love them.
Mhm.
Love you, brother. Yep. And what do you get from me
Jonathan
every once
does
in a
that.
while?
Yeah.
Check up.
Yep.
I send text messages out every day, 4 or 5. I've just picked random people and they just say check up. And it doesn't have to be cops, doesn't have to be firemen. And when they ask me what I'm doing, I'm saying, I'm just checking on you, man. And you know how many times people have said, man, I needed that today.
Yep.
I really needed that today. Or they'll call me and go, man, I'm glad you checked up on me, man. I need to talk. And it might not be the most traumatic thing in the world. They might just be having a crap day and they need a vent. I'm the only guy that ain't in the office.
Right.
But it's as simple as 2 words and a button to send it. Now I'm getting them back. Guys are starting to send them to me. That's where you got the connection. If you have,
And that's the brotherhood.
and that's the brotherhood. If you have a guy that will go to the ends of the earth for you, and you tell him you love him, he's going to say I love you back. And it's not meant to be anything derogatory or sexual or anything like that. There's none of that crap. It's I love you, and I'll go to the end of the earth for you. If you need something, call me. And it's not just, well, if you need something, call me. I'll be like, love you, see you, bye, I'm out.
I've had to explain this to people before because I've told, all right, on the phone with somebody, and it's one of my firefighters, one of my friends, and all right, man, I love you, bye. And they're like, well, what? That, who? That wasn't your wife? That wasn't your kids? I'm like, and I had to explain it. I explained to one person, and they finally they got it after I explained it because they didn't understand. Like they were like, man, that's foreign to me. And I'm like, if this person died, I would cry at their funeral.
Yep.
Yes.
So I love them.
Yep.
I don't want to see them go.
And it's like real relationships, like in this industry, you can be separated for 10 years and then see each other, and it's all
like you never left.
Never left.
You never left.
Like you and I just met today.
Yep.
And we were over there joking and smoking. Poor Brian was in the corner. He had to get on doom scroll on his phone because he couldn't get the conversation. He couldn't get a word in. He couldn't get a word in. And we just met each other. There's an air about when guys who have chewed the same dirt, even if it's not in the same geographical location, guys that have chewed the same dirt, they can find each other in a crowded room. It's kind of like when you yell OH.
Oh,
I did that in a Florida airport and got like 18 IOs. Like it's the same thing. There's a brotherhood that's built into chewing that same dirt. And you don't have to be both firemen. You can be a fireman and a cop. You can be an EMS and a fireman. Back in the day, now that's starting to crack. And there's this thing, and I talked to Brian Witzkittle today. He's a Columbus firefighter, great guy, close friend of mine. I've only known him 3 years, but he's like a brother to me. I swear to God. And he said to me today, he goes, man, he goes, EMS and fire aren't like they used to be. Fire thinks they're better than EMS, and they're like the redheaded stepchild of that side. But we have to understand that we're all in this together. And I don't, and I always said, I don't care if your uniform shirt is white, gray, or black. If your car has a bubble on the top, then I'm coming after you. I'm going to burn tires off of a car to get to you,
Right.
because the color of your shirt doesn't mean the color of your character. And I love you whether I've met you or not, because I'm like I said, burn tires to get to you. My mother said it best. When I was shot and they brought me in the hospital, my mom said, Eric, there were people from departments I've never heard of. And she lived in Columbus her entire life.
Mhm.
And she said, there were people there from departments I've never even knew existed. I never knew that city was in Ohio. And they drove down to just sit with their brothers and sisters and make sure that if somebody needed something, they were there. And that is powerful. And she said, when the fire and EMS guys and the cops got together, you could tell the guys that had experience, because they'd all huddle in a corner,
Mhm.
and you'd hear giggling over there and laughing. And they'd be like, we're not trying to be disrespectful. My mother was like, absolutely not. You do what you need to do, because she understood. But she said, Eric, I've never seen a group of people that connected. And those people had never met each other. They were from totally different areas, had never met. And they're over there telling stories and joking. And one of them that knew you was telling stories about you. And everybody's laughing. And she said, it was the oddest thing in the world to be in a waiting room, knowing you're on the other side having surgery and you could lose your life, but these people were connecting. And she said, I loved it. I loved every second of it. She said, this was because the brotherhood showed through. Now, like right now, the cops, I went to a concert with my son, and I go walking in, there's a cop sitting there that sat at my bedside, and I was like, what's up, dude? We had never talked, but he had wrote my book.
Right.
Wrote a message in my book, and I knew the name, and I remembered the name.
Brian, it's Mary ripping your ass about your phone ringing.
Well, tell her to quit calling.
And I do that everywhere I go.
Yeah, you do, actually. You do. But, here's the thing. And you asked the perfect question earlier. How do we get the brotherhood back? We can make all these slogans, we can make all these statements, we can give all the speeches in the world, but what is really going to bring them back? And I feel personally, and I may be wrong, I feel if we get some of the old guard back involved and we have them work as groups in areas, driving by a firehouse and you see cars sitting there, guess what I do? I go in and I hand out cards. Well, why can't they do that? Why can't they go in there and joke and smoke and say, listen, guys, they're busy. We get that. But give them, go in and stop for 30 minutes and keep it at 30 minutes. At 30 minutes, you're out. What they're going to do is they're going to say, hey, you guys want to stop back up and have lunch, or come back anytime you want. That 30-minute interaction, endorphin release.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they're going to say, oh my God, the old guys care about us. They stopped and brought us donuts. Or see what I did? I knew, told you I was going to throw a donut joke. But here's the thing: we all need an oil change at some time, right? We all need to power back up at some time. Why can't the retirees do it?
I agree. A lot of times, what you hear about even suicide in retired first responders is because they lose the connection completely. If you have that ability, and anytime that you hear a story, a lot of times from one of the older people, it's not so much a ha ha, look what I've done, as it is when you go through this. If you go through this, know that you can survive it.
That's where we go back to me saying, I'm your instructor, and I'm telling you, these are the tools. So why would you not do it for somebody like me, but do it for a perfect stranger?
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with, oh, I'm weak or I'm this. No, it has to do with I want you to go home and be a good dad. I want you to be a good partner. I want you to be a good son or daughter. I want you to be able to enjoy life outside of the job. We don't have to be first responders 24 hours a day. Now, something happens in front of you and you have to take care of it. Take care of it.
Yeah.
But what do? We go look for it because that's what we're trained to do. We're trained to go find problems. We're trained to solve problems. You don't have to solve your spouse's problems. Sometimes they just want you to shut up and listen. That was a hard lesson to learn. I'm telling you that one. But they want you to shut up and learn and show empathy. Your empathy will go way farther when it's genuine and you're doing it with great communication than you solving the problem that your wife had at work that isn't a problem.
That is one of the worst things to get past is as a man, males in general solve problems. Women want to connect with you about their problem, and that's where there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
Because if Mary comes to me with a problem, my brain first runs to how can I fix this?
Yeah.
When at times they're not wanting it fixed, at times they're just wanting you on the same level to connect emotionally.
They're actually telling you what's wrong with them before they get to you, kind of like hey, here's a clue, dummy.
Yeah.
This is why I'm going to act the way I'm going to act tonight. And guess what we don't do? We don't do clues. We don't read minds. I say, I lost half of my reading ability in my first divorce, and I lost the other half in my second. So now I have none. But it's true that when they come to us with the problem, and includes our children, this includes our parents, this includes anybody that you're close to, it includes coworkers. When they finally come to you with the problem, that is a trust that is on a level that other people don't have. Like your kids might come to you because your other half just doesn't handle problems well, or they might come to you because they trust what you tell them is going to be the gospel.
Yes.
As opposed
You
to
won't
what
steer me
somebody
wrong.
else, right? You're not going to scream and yell and carry on and do this. When I told my family I wanted to become a fireman, they all looked at me and said, "Why?" And I said, "Because there's people that need me." And I didn't mean the community. Yes, the community needed me, but there were people there that needed me, and that was tipped off by my first chief, fire chief. He said to me, "I don't want to give you a label, but I need you to lead from inside the group." And that was a huge boost to my ego because I took it as you trust me to be in the mix and still be able to say, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And we've had that conversation with some of those young guys. I'm going to put lights on my truck. I'm going to go, no, 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 no. Absolutely not. Well, why not? I want to drive fast, because driving fast is not what it's cracked up to be. Trust me. I drove enough cruisers, enough fire trucks, enough ambulances. I don't like going fast anymore because things happen. That's how somebody gets hurt. I tell my guys in the cruisers, you get in a car chase, the car you're chasing, and every car you pass has at least one person in it.
Right.
So there's always three people in trouble, because if you oversteer, understeer, blow a tire, they blow a tire, guess what happens? People die. People get maimed and injured and worse. So why do you want to put it on your personal vehicle? Number one, if you don't tell your insurance company and you have a wreck, guess what they don't do? They don't pay for your vehicle. Number two, you've just taken a 2010 Ford F-150 that barely runs, and now you're going to overdrive it? Come on. I don't want to do that with a perfectly brand new car that I know there's nothing wrong with. And you're going to take a 25-year-old truck and put lights and sirens on it and expect it to perform? Not going to happen. You're going to blow something up, probably the engine, because you're going to drive like an idiot. But you getting there fast is not necessarily you driving fast. When we take the EVOC courses, what do they say? Smooth as speed.
Yes.
Smooth as speed. Because if you don't hit anything, you don't have to back up, and you don't have to do it again. So if you just take 10 seconds and do it right, guess what happens? You're done. But if you hit something, guess what? 2 hours later, the cop's still trying to figure out why you hit something.
Yes.
I appreciate you for saying that, because Charlie just posted on
Oh.
there that I won't let him play with the lights and sirens.
No, Charlie. Sorry. No, Charlie.
But,
I hate to tell you this, Charlie, but I drove to Columbus one time hot.
so you were talking about the us all bringing everything back together, and there's a guy that's on here every time we do this. His name's Jay, and
Hi,
he was
Jay.
a mentor of mine. And I don't think he realizes how much I respect Jay, and I've carried him with me throughout my career, even though we were separated for years and told stories. And at the end of the day, when I first got my advanced in paramedic card, especially my paramedic card. Where I worked at the time, you were not allowed to respond on an emergency unless the paramedics there said, you can do this. What's very interesting about that story, I just tonight put together why it happened that way. It happened that way because they needed to know that I could handle it, not only care-wise, but mental,
Yes.
because they had already lived it.
Yes, that's the important key right there. That's why we need to get these retirees involved, because you just said it a second ago. He was your mentor. And when he said something, it was the gospel, right?
Right. Yep.
So why are we not taking the guys that are built-in mentors and giving them an alpha job?
Yep.
I say the best therapy for me over the last few years is being a sheepdog for the sheepdogs, but not dealing with all the crackheads.
Right.
And that might sound a little derogatory to some folks, but that's how we speak in our society with first responders. But here's the deal. I get to be what I was before, and I don't have to worry about administration. I don't have to worry about somebody yelling at me. I don't have to worry about taking somebody to jail. I don't have to write any reports. Like, I have the best job in the world right now because I get to go to the firehouses and the police stations and hang out, talk to the cops and tell stories. And then I get to leave. I get to go home when I'm ready. I don't have to work an 8-hour shift. So why won't we use the tools we have in the toolbox? We put them in the old toolbox and we set them underneath the bench, and we thought, well, we'll get them out someday. Well, guess what? Someday's here. This is the best solution that I can absolutely come up with, because I talk to these guys all the time. And what do? First thing they do, we start telling stories.
Oh, yeah.
Because, and I told a guy named Larry. I love Larry. We were on an adventure. Larry's steady speed bitching about this lake because we had a truck kept breaking down, and we were doing some overlanding. And we're sitting on the tailgate eating lunch. Guys are throwing wrenches at each other, and they're screaming and hooting and hollering at each other. It's vets and firemen and policemen and all this stuff. They're retired, and they're acting like we're acting now, right? And Larry is over here just, we're not going to get to the lake. Oh my God. I said, Larry, shut up. And he looked at me like, what? I said, do you realize what's going on right now? And he goes, no. I said, we're at the table again. And he looked at me and he went, what? And I said, we're joking and smoking. We're at the table again, and you're speed bitching about something that, number one, we can camp right here. We have the equipment with us. We can camp right here. But you want to make it to this lake because you're told there's a time frame. Well, we got to be this lake before dark. Guess what? We don't. We can start camping right where we're at if we absolutely positively have to, but you're missing the table talk. And when I saw him the next time, which was a year later, he ran across the campsite, jumped in my arms, knocked me to the ground, and said, I have been waiting to hear from you. He goes, you were right. I realized that I never got back to the table because he had an incident where it took him off like it did with me. Right. I never got to go back to the table. And I said to him, you're at the table. And he went, I could be at the table anytime I want. And now he helps that group with first responders and vets, and he's at the table. And that's how he sees it. I'm back at the table. I get to be 12 years old again. Because we said earlier, we're a bunch of 12-year-olds. And you gave us a fire truck and hoses and said, go out there and put the wet stuff on the hot stuff. Go play. And you just made the biggest mistake. But we go train to be the best and do what strangers tell us to do. So why are we not doing what the people we know and love are telling us to do? Because we have egos, because we don't want to get in trouble. I've broke all that stuff for you guys. And I don't care if you live in California or Kalamazoo. I don't care. It's telehealth. And I don't know who you are. I don't know where you are. But our foundation started as Ross County. And I got a phone call from a guy from another state. And he said, I heard you have a foundation, you pay bills. I can't find a clinician here. And I shot a guy. And that was 6 months ago. And nobody has talked to me. He shot a guy. It was a kid, a 19, 20-year-old kid. He said, he said, I am struggling. And my boss says, well, I'll figure something out. He goes, they've been saying that for 6 months. And I said, when we hang up, I'm going to send you a card. On one side is my information. On the other side is the clinician's information. The phone number on the clinician's information is a first responder only number. When that phone rings, if it's not answered immediately, they'll answer you in 2 hours. You'll actually talk to somebody about what's wrong with you so they can figure out which clinician to put you with within 24 hours. Within 48 hours, you'll have that clinician visit. And he said, what? And I said, because they made me wait 3 months, and I'm never going to make that happen again. I woke up with a tube in my mouth, and the worst part about it was I couldn't talk. I'd been in a coma for 8 days. I couldn't type. I couldn't write. I couldn't tell anybody what was wrong with me. So what did I do for that 4 days with that tube in my mouth that I was awake 24 hours a day? I didn't sleep, number one, because I'd been sleeping for 8 days and my body wasn't tired. But I laid there and thought about every mistake I've ever made on the job, at home, with my children, with my spouses. I thought about everything that has happened to me, and I probably even made up some things because I was, doped up from all the drugs. I probably made up problems that weren't there because nobody gave me a game plan for what was going to happen after I got shot. It was never talked about. Nobody gave me a game plan for mental health. So when I was able to talk, I told my mother, I said, nobody will go through that again if I can help it. And I made a public promise, and I did it on purpose. One of the first interviews I gave, I said, I'm going to provide mental health, real mental health. And I did that for accountability because now it's out there and everybody's heard it. And somebody at some point is going to call me on my bull crap.
Mhm.
And I never let anybody call me on my bull crap because I never stopped. And guess what? It was a 5-year plan. We're at year 3 and we are doing it. We're actually doing it. And I have an amazing board. Like these ladies, they keep a feral cat from running into the street is basically what's happening here. But I am on committees, but I am never running a committee because I tell them, like we said earlier, make a decision. Well, it's your foundation. No, 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 no. It's our foundation. I'm just the pretty face. I'm the president. I don't get a vote on the board. I'm not on the board. I only vote for if there's a quorum. That's it. And I don't want to be on the board because I have to release that control.
Right.
Because it's not my way. We went to a training, Janelle.
Mhm.
Janelle and I went to a training on how to build a crisis response team. And I had everything mapped out. And Janelle and I are working on this. We're talking about it and everything else. And when we were done the first day, I got in the truck and I said, you know what, Janelle, I'm wrong. And first of all, she wanted to write the date down. But she looked at me, she said, about what? I said, everything. Everything. My plan is wrong. My plan is going to hurt people. It's going to make things worse. And she said, why? I said, because I never thought it out in the way that they're teaching us. I said, and what I'm trying to do is force it on people. And we can't do that. We have to get their trust and make them do it because they want to do it, because then they'll buy into it.
Right.
And guess what happens when they get the results? They tell people. Where if we force them to go, they're not going to go and do what they need to be doing. They're going to go because you told them to go, and they're going to say only what they have to say. And she looked at me and said, wow, I'm really shocked that you will admit that. And I said, and I literally took the paper out of the folder, crumpled it up, threw it in the back seat of the truck, and never saw it again until I threw it in the trash. And it was an epiphany. It's not my way or the highway. Yes, my name is on it, and sometimes I do have to put my foot down, but I don't have to be the heavy-handed leader. And I tell my board and my committees that this is yours. I'll guide you. I'll show you what I want, but it doesn't have to be exactly what I want. And like our Christmas dinner in December, that was supposed to be Christmas in July. It really was. We were going to raise money for kids and all this other
Right.
stuff. And I was taken aside and they went, why? That's not your niche. Your niche is talking to people about what happened to you and thinking of ideas on how to make it better. So why are you not bothering, but why are you avoiding it? Basically is what I was told. And I said, I don't know. And then basically the board looked at me and said, then get your head out your butt and let's do it. And I went home literally from that meeting. I went home and started writing notes and started looking at things and started researching things. And I found out that there are very few people doing what I'm doing. Now, there are great organizations out there and they are working in their niche. Some are helping families with money and placement and all this stuff. That's amazing. There's a need for that. Don't get me wrong. So I'm not saying anybody's better or worse than I am. But there are very few people that are paying the actual bill and getting in front of them and going, hey, you knuckleheads, go get your head checked out so you can live a lot longer.
How do you raise the money?
Well, we have a softball game that's coming up September 13th, Yuck Park in Chillicothe. There's a touch a truck and a softball game. It's cuffs versus hoses. This year's shirt's going to be all color. It's very great. There's that DTF. where you can put the color on the screens now. It's like printing stickers, and you can iron it on. It's like iron-ons. It's great. Oh my God, if you haven't seen it, it's amazing. The shirts are going to have color this year. It's going to be great.
DTF always means something different.
Yeah, I always thought those, So, anyways, he threw me off my track. Cuffs and Hoses is a game where we do raise some money, but I told the committee this. I don't care if you raise 1 penny for this game. What I do care is that you raise the attendance for the game and you raise the participation by outside people, because I want them to see the first responders as people, and I want them to see them acting like 12-year-old kids on the field. Because what are they going to do when they come to your house? They already know you, even though they never met you.
Right.
Because they have a connection with you. Oh, you're the guy who was the pitcher and you didn't know how to throw the ball. That's what they're going to say, because it's humor. We use humor to deflect, right? It's a trauma response.
Refuse.
When somebody's in trauma, but it's not serious trauma where, there's death involved, but, grandma's fallen and she needs a lift or something like that. You come to the house, they're going to start saying, hey, you're the guy that hit the home run last year in the softball game. You playing again? It's a connecting point. It's a connecting point to the community that people don't think about as that. So with putting the touch-a-truck, because 9/11 falls on a football Friday, you're not going to get any fire trucks or ambulances to begin with. You're not going to get any participation because parents are watching their kids play football. So we were kind of asked to kind of bring it into our fold for this year, and I hope, and my hope is that we have a huge success and we continue to do that, because it's a great idea and it's a great way to connect the community, because they're seeing the child side of the EMT and they're seeing the working side of the EMT over here at the touch truck at the same time. And they're seeing that they're the same person. There's no disconnect. There's no disconnect between the father that's over here yelling at his son in the stands, what, you see what I just did? As opposed to the guy over here who's like, come up in the ambulance, climb on the stuff, touch the stuff. Like, they see that they're the same person. And they make that connection like, oh my God, they're real humans. They're not just a man in a uniform. And that's hard to do when somebody's in trauma. They don't get to make that connection, because everywhere we go, it's a problem, right?
Right.
We're there for a problem. We're not there for a cake. So being able to do that is number one. That's the most important thing of the Kocheran Strong Foundation, is showing love to the first responders, showing them that there's a path to a better life, and showing the community that their first responders are just people. Number two, we do a dinner called a Winter's Eve. It's an actual fundraiser. We sell tickets for it. If you go to kocheranstrong.org or Kocheran Strong on Facebook, and it's spelled with K, Kocheran, so you can play this back and get the spelling. But you could keep up on the events, but the dinner is not really formal. Please wear a collared shirt would be great.
Right.
And, some slacks, but the purpose of it is to do some raffles and have a dinner, but it's also to get the first responders in our community together at the table. And we have some music, and it's not a big blown out thing. It's kind of small, but we actually grew to a size where we had to get a new venue, and we love JC's golf course. They never charged us for their venue. And now we're going to be in the AmVets on Main Street, Chillicothe this year, and they're not charging us for the venue. And so we're getting these businesses to buy into what we're doing and helping us out and letting us take that money and do it for something good. So this summer, I sponsored a golf tournament and was one of the whole sponsors. And when I got there, they made a beautiful sign. It was really nice, but it didn't have our barcodes on it. And it was the same as everybody else's. And I like to be different. And I like to be the life of the party and stand out. Mm-hmm. I called this local sign company, Printex there in Chillicothe, and had them make me a sign that's beautiful in colors, and the barcodes are on it. And there's all this Kocheran Strong information and all the clinician information. And now I donate the money to the cause and I hand them the sign. They put the sign up and I get it back from them. Guess what they just did? Put that money in their pocket. Yep. Because the $50 that I gave them, they spent $20 to make a sign. Well, now they have $50 in their pocket, and I have a sign that represents us and gives the information properly, but it's the only one out there sometimes, and it looks beautiful and people see it. And I've had people text me and go, man, that sign looks great. But the big thing is it's bringing that attention that we want. We have to be attention hounds right now with this. not just the mental health stuff, but the active lifestyle of a first responder, the way you handle yourself at work, the things that you do, the brotherhood, and our leadership. Now, don't get me wrong, we have some great leaders, and we have guys that have done some remarkable stuff. And I'm being PC here, so don't laugh too hard, but they have forgotten where they came from.
Yep.
They have forgotten
100%.
that money doesn't run everything. Sometimes the people under you run it and save you the money. Because if you're ordering supplies and you order a big brick of supplies, we talked about this earlier, kind of as a joke, but if you order a big brick of supplies and they don't have the same date on it, they're all going to run out on the same time. And if you haven't used it, you just threw money out the door. But if you bought a little bit here, a little bit here with a different date, and a little bit here with a different date, guess what you've done? When this little batch, 2 or 3 are left, you're only throwing 2 or 3 away, not 10. So you're saving money. And when your employee comes to you with that idea, you have to embrace that and say, you know what? It's a money saving idea. But you've also empowered your employee. You've just told them, I'm buying into your system just as much as I want you to buy into my system. Because it is a give and take job. Because if a guy's on an engine and he does the pumper and he never goes interior, guess what he becomes? The pumper guy.
Bumper.
Right?
Yep.
So don't always be the guy to jump in the driver's seat. Be the first guy in the truck, but go in the back, get in the back. Make somebody else do it. Yeah, maybe you're the guy that does it best. And maybe you have to take over at some point. But if you don't teach somebody to do it and you fall down and break your ankle, because, Brian was injured for a while there and couldn't work, we didn't have a pumper guy. Like, it was all the new kids that were working, and we're all looking at each other going, who's going to run the truck if we have a run today? Not me. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. Well, now you're making it so I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. You have to cross train. You have to be the leader that says, let's go out and drag some hose today. We're not going to run any water. We're just going to drag hose and put it back. And we're going to teach multiple ways to fold a hose. Because guess what? There's multiple ways to carry a hose.
Yeah.
And if I need to carry that hose and I've never seen it, I'm going to carry it wrong. Guess what we get? We get spaghetti, right? It's one of the first things to teach you when you're doing hose in the academy is you don't want spaghetti, because when somebody turns that water on, somebody's going to break an ankle because they're standing on top of the hose and they don't know it.
Right.
And now you've made things so complicated with worrying about liability and somebody's going to take my job and I'm going to get outranked. Or put a white hat on my head, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stick it back on the shelf because I don't want a white hat. Why would I want a white hat? Number one, I don't get to play with the fun stuff unless I really come out of my office because you got me buried in paperwork. Number two, yes, I've become the center of attention, but not in a positive way, because now everybody's going to hate me because I'm the white hat, right?
Right.
So that black hat sitting up here on my, behind me, that's where you want to be. That's where the fun is. I didn't get in this job because I was getting paid for it. I was volunteering at the fire department. I did it because there was 2 reasons, actually. I got challenged because I didn't like masks. I didn't like anything on my face. I didn't like, I won't scuba dive. I wouldn't do all this stuff. And we're in a SWAT truck, and I'm the last guy to put my gas mask on because we're getting ready to gas this house. And our Thames guy, who ended up being my chief, says, "Why were you the last guy to put your mask on?" I said, "I don't like them. I fear I'm not going to be able to breathe." And he said, "I can break you in 36 hours." And I said, "How's that?" And he goes, "Show up Saturday." I didn't know I was signing up for the fire department. I really didn't know. I walked in the door and went, "Oh, this is a fire class. Wait a minute. Hold on. I thought we were going to do like gas masks or something." No, I did. Don't get me wrong, but that's the joke. I didn't know. But I went in, and the first time I put a mask on, somebody didn't tell me when you close the little thing, the little bottle's got to be on. So what did I do? Dead air. So everybody laughed, right? You remember this.
Oh, yeah.
You remember this. So the guy that's instructing me, he was joking with me. He had turned my tank off when I was putting my mask on. I didn't know that. So we do it again. Guess what? Dead air, because the tank was actually empty. It had nothing to do with him turning it off. So here I am cussing and screaming and throwing gear and going, "I hate this job. I'm not doing this, blah, blah, blah." And then 3 years later, I went and got my fire and won my fire too, because I was challenged. Somebody came to me and said, "You're good at this. You follow instruction. You know what to do. You're a big, tough guy. We need you. So go do it." And I said, "Well, why would I want to do that?" Because if you went back 10 years and told me when I worked or 20 years when I worked in Columbus that I was going to be a fireman, I would have kicked you right in your teeth, because I would have been like, why do I want to be a fireman? I'm a cop. But when you move to the rural area, you realize that it's a lot of volunteerism. There's guys that cross train and all that. And to be honest with you, the first training we did where we went to a live fire, I was like a kid. Oh, the flames are lapping, and this guy right here, he was the guy controlling the smoke and everything, and he's just throwing. I mean, he's throwing hay on this baby, and he's got it hot in there. It's like a 1,200 degrees or something. I don't know, whatever it was. And I'm in the back, and all you hear is, "Woo, this is great!" Shut up. And these kids come out, and they're looking at me like, "Aren't you on the SWAT team?" And I'm like, "Yes." And they're like, "This is great," or I'm like, "Absolutely." Like, have you ever had flames lick your mask and you're like, I can't see because of the sweat and it's rising. And I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And I was so bought into the system at that point that you couldn't get me out of the firehouse.
Oh yeah.
Like when I was not at the police station or sheriff's office, I was at the firehouse. All I wanted to do was just run and run and run. And I miss it. Don't get me wrong. I miss the people. I miss some of the action, but I don't miss the job because the job I have now is really great because I get to go to the knuckleheads and say, listen, I need you to do what I'm asking you to do. And then I really do go to them repeatedly. And the people, especially that I can see are hurting and say, you need to do what I'm asking you. I know you told me, but no, I'm going to keep saying it till you go, because if you go once and you're cool and you don't need it, cool, you got a tune-up, you got an oil change, right? Go every 6 months and just do 1 or 2 sessions. I'm paying for it, so what do you care? Because here was the thing, volunteers in a lot of the counties in Ohio, they don't get paid any kind of stipend for runs. They don't get paid any kind of mileage for going back and forth from the home and department. They get nothing. They get no benefits. They get nothing. So unless they have a great full-time job that has insurance, some of them don't even have insurance. And they're working for multiple departments because that's how they make ends meet.
And a lot of insurance companies will not pay for some mental health.
That's true too. We've run into that. So if I'm paying a $15 copay, that doesn't sound like a lot, but to you, that's gas money for the week. To this family over here, that's enough groceries to get them to the next payday. So that's where I said earlier, it's the small things that are going to really make this work. It's thinking about the small things, not just we got to get you mental health services. It's, I got to get you mental health services, and I got to find a way to get you to go towards it willingly, like I said earlier. And that's the same thing with the disconnect. We gotta bring some love back to the brotherhood, the sisterhood, because it was so much fun. It really was.
And
That was the best time in my life, especially before body cameras.
I tell all these new kids all the time that it was so much fun back then, but what made it fun was where everybody was tight and joking.
yeah.
Yes,
Had
and
fun.
if the guy rolled up on a scene, he was the new EMT or he was the new cop. Man, he got it right off the rip, because we would see if he could take a joke.
Oh,
They used to take us to bar fights and see if he could take a punch, because then I didn't have to worry about you having my back, and you didn't have to worry about me having your back. You people call it hazing and all this stuff. Nobody got hurt. Nobody, maybe others some feelings.
well, I think there's a difference between hazing and testing the limitations of the new person to see in the thick of things whether or not they will be able to handle it, so you know how to protect them or how not to.
Yes. Know their strengths, know their weaknesses. Let them know your strengths and weaknesses. Some guys can move hose hundreds of yards without effort. Some guys can't move it 10 feet. That's just not what they're built for. But that might be the guy that when you stick him on the back of the hose, he's the best guy to get you around corners. He's the best guy to get you upstairs. Like, that's his niche. You got to find what the strengths and weaknesses are, because you're not going to put a guy that can't drive a cruiser in a fire truck and say, here you go, drive 100 miles an hour. You're not going to do that. You go to the guy who knows how to drive Bumperzilla. You don't give it to the new guy.
Right.
Yeah, maybe you take him out and let him test
Let them
it,
try.
but you don't give it to him when you're running on a call. Because the adrenaline's running, the lights are going. Lights and sirens used to be adrenaline to me, and now that I'm disconnected from it, it's not so much, thank goodness. But it doesn't even turn my head anymore, really. But I do miss it. Like, I miss that adrenaline dump when they're like man down kind of thing, and you just all of a sudden you went from I can't have nobody, and you're like, oh shit, like that sudden dump of adrenaline. It's a trauma response, believe it or not, because now we know we're going to trouble. Now we know it's something that we probably have been to before, it's similar situations, is actually a trauma response, because stable people don't do that. They don't.
Nope.
They hear sirens and they go, wonder what's going on.
I've always said nobody in their right mind wakes up in the middle of the night, runs out, jumps in a car with ice all over the road, and goes to try to help a total stranger.
Yes.
That we all got to be
Yeah.
crazy. But
It is definitely a calling.
Yeah.
And not everyone understands. I have an ex-wife that could not fathom at all, in the least, why I would want to go help a stranger.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to realize she just don't get it.
Right.
Period. It's my calling, not her calling.
But on the flip side of that coin, we have to remember, we'll go help a stranger, but we don't help ourselves and our families.
exactly.
So let's balance that coin. Let's get some of that communication back in the family. Let's get that next generation of first responders. Because remember, back in the day, my dad was a fireman, my grandpa was a fireman. You don't hear that anymore.
Mm-mm.
Like when you go to places like New York, well, my dad, my grandfather, my great grandfather, they were all New York cops. So I'm a New York cop. Like there's not that love anymore. We have to build that back into the house and let that communication also be with our family and treat them as well as we treat these strangers. Because, like you said, that was a complaint that I heard. Well, you'll go out there and you'll help people you don't even know, but I can't get you to do the laundry here. Like, come on.
I just see we got another 100-year-old guy here, Bruce Sutton.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
he's
yeah,
100
Bruce,
years old
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Bruce.
Not really. He's got hair. He's better off than ours. But
Yeah.
anyway, Eric, thanks.
Yep.
We've been on here for about an hour and a half.
You got his card.
Oh, have we been on here that long? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
I've got his card. We'll post it on the website.
Let's hold it up here too, so
Let's
they
see.
can pause it on here.
Let Brian hold it. We're trying to learn all this technology stuff, but we really don't know it yet. But we'll get it. We'll get it. I
But you can
promise.
go to the CocheranStrongFoundation.org. You can go to our Facebook page. We have all the information on there. At the bottom of the Facebook pages are the cards. That QR code goes to our website. You can go directly to our website. The QR code on the other side goes to the clinician's website. You can schedule an appointment. If you need a financial assistance, tell them, because they'll get you the form. We'll verify it's your first responder. Some of you I know, some of y'all know by your handwriting, but but we'll get you taken care of, and we'll get you on the list, and then there won't be any cost to you. Your insurance will be charged. We'll pay the copay. To date, we started this in January. It was very slow. We didn't really even get our first person until February, but to date, we've paid over $2,000 in bills. Every single person has been a copay.
Nice.
Cool.
That's a lot of people. And I want numbers. I want you guys to do this to numbers so I can get more money from grants and all these places, because the more money we have in the kitty, the better quality we can give you of your life and the things that are able to be avoided.
Yep.
So
And
thank you very much.
We will
put this-
post all of his events. Brian and I, or one of the other of us, hope to be at the softball tournament live. We're going to do
That'd be
our
great.
Off of the Cot live.
I think I'm going to be
You
there,
can reach
hopefully.
out to us if you want the contact information. But anyway, thanks for sticking with us, guys, for the last hour and a half. Appreciate it. This stuff's only going to get better. We'll have Eric back at some point. We'll talk to him at the softball
Yeah.
tournament.
Softball tournament, Yakutenji Park,
Yes, Yaktanji Park,
September-
Chillicothe. September 13th, 11:30 game time, and touch truck will start at the same time. If you have a department that wants to participate, touch a truck, contact us or show up at 10:30, and we'll make sure you get a place to park. We're going to have the law enforcement kids from Pickaway Ross, law enforcement high school students park vehicles. They get volunteer credit for working
Okay.
for that, and so it helps them towards their graduation.
Go
So-
to our Facebook page if you're interested there. If you've not been to our Facebook page, it's Off the Cot. It's got the emblem from the back on it. I had to see which one it was.
Yeah.
He just wanted to touch himself. But anyway,
Oh my
But
goodness! It's
go
starting,
there.
boys and girls. We're all getting a little punchy here, I think.
I can get you in contact with Eric if need be.
Yes.
Hit our Facebook page, hit us on here, hit us on whatever you need. Any point in time, we will get you all the information we can. We'll post his card on our Facebook.
and it's a first responder event, so I guarantee you there'll be plenty of food.
There's going to be hamburgers and hot dogs.
So-
Texas Roadhouse sponsored the food for us, and we'll have little food packages, like a hamburger, chips,
Right.
and kind of a shout out to my niece. She's going to provide some really good cookies, and they're going to be part of the package too. So we'll give you a cookie and some chips and a drink and a hot dog hamburger and charge you a couple bucks to raise some money, and we're gonna have a good time. So bring the kids with their ball gloves. If I get enough kids with ball gloves, I may let you go on the field and play with the players. I tried it last year. Nobody showed up with their gloves, but if you bring your ball gloves, we might be able to do maybe an inning where the kids get to go out.
That would be awesome.
And hang out with their favorite first responder. Because what better way? I said it earlier to Dan Ramey on Litter Propane or Litter Media, excuse me. They're like kryptonite to us.
Yep.
You put a kid in front of a first responder and they want to be a kid again. So
Yep.
why would we not want to do this? You know, in the future, we want to build some things for the kids in the game. And that would be really great. So bring them out, let them see, touch the truck, have a good time, let you climb on the equipment, and haze the policeman with donuts or whatever. We'll figure something out.
I appreciate you guys.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you. We'll catch you in 2 weeks or maybe before.
I didn't realize we've been talking that long. It feels like 10 minutes.